I'm sexually frustrated and literally can't take it. Bob is a good man and tries his best to provide. However, the bedroom performance is honestly bad. I make sure he comes every goddamn time, but once he gets to the second minute and has climaxed, that's the end. This has gone on for 9 years. He always apologizes and says he will do better next time. I masturbate to release the sexual tension, and when he found out, he was mad. And then they told us what it means to be a woman: how to speak, how to shrink, how to sacrifice, how to endure. But what if we unlearned it all? Welcome to Womanhood Unbound. I'm Moira, and here we challenge the script. We go beyond the conditioning, beyond the expectations, to redefine womanhood on our terms. Your truths, your voice, your choices, your life. This is where we question and unlearn. Here, we rewrite the rules, one conversation at a time. 9 years of feeling unseen and unsatisfied, and he's the one who's angry? Why is her husband's reaction to her masturbating anger instead of curiosity and self reflection? And why do so many women endure this feeling of being stuck in this pattern of giving without receiving? Let's read and unpack this. My husband is mad that I masturbate. I, 31 female, is married to Bob, 37 male, for 9 years this year, 2025, with 3 kids. I'm sexually frustrated and literally can't take it. Bob is a good man and tries his best to provide. However, the bedroom performance is honestly bad. In my culture, females are trained on how to please a man, which I was trained as well. My husband, on the other hand, wasn't trained and almost had no clue how to have sex. I was his first and he was mine. I make sure he comes every goddamn time, but once he gets to the second minute and has climaxed, that's the end of it. I will lie beside him as he sleeps away and I'm unsatisfied. This has gone on for 9 years. He always apologizes and says he will do better next time. Mind you, we only go for one round that doesn't last more than 3 minutes. He recently complained that I don't seem interested in having sex anymore, but honestly got tired of being turned on and left unsatisfied. Most times I have to pretend, while other times I just let him have his way. We have talked about it several times, but the change lasts a few days and we're back to one short round. I masturbate to release the sexual tension, and when he found out, he was mad. I honestly have no other way of getting it out, as I have no desire to cheat, nor keep talking to Bob about his shortcomings. Earlier on in the marriage, we had discussed about our bedroom affairs, discussing what we liked, what we needed to improve, etc. But he kept bringing up hints of the discussion of not the good things discussed, but the things I asked him to improve on for me to enjoy as well for months on end. Basically, his ego was bruised. There has been no evidence of infidelity between us. How do I get him to realize I too have to climax and not just him? How do I get him to go another round? Since reading this and saving it, the original post has since been deleted, and I think I can understand why. Yet at the same time, many women go through this without ever confessing it out of fear and shame. I'm hoping the original poster comes across this video and finds it helpful as I try my best to give you and many women like you practical guidance and advice. This is heartbreaking, 9 years of feeling isolated and unfulfilled, and not just sad, but it's exhausting. And yet, so many women live like this because society tells us that being married, no matter the cost, is better than being single. I'm going to start with the things that stick out to me about this situation. Then we'll conclude with some practical advice for her and any other women going through a similar situation. To the lady who shared this, I'm so sorry it's come to this. It's obvious to me that this is not just about sex, it's about a desire for connection, respect, and reciprocity. You've done everything, stayed faithful, communicated, tried to preserve your marriage, and for what? A man who reacts to your masturbating with anger instead of curiosity and self reflection. You are doing exactly what society has conditioned you to do. You've stayed committed despite feeling unfulfilled. You are following what every woman has been told her job is. You are keeping your man. You're keeping quiet. You're keeping the peace to keep him. However, reverse the roles for just 1 year, and would he try to keep the peace, or would he be screaming or being passive aggressive about how you're depriving him in just 1 week? When you wrote one round lasting 2 minutes, I nearly choked on my tea. 2 minutes? I could never shower, do my skincare routine, or do my makeup in that amount of time. So here's my focus, and this should be your focus too. Why is your satisfaction not prioritized? Why is your husband's reaction to masturbating anger instead of self reflection? And why do so many women endure this feeling of being stuck in this pattern of giving without receiving? Here's the bigger issue: this isn't just your story, it's a story of patriarchal conditioning. Women are trained to prioritize men's needs, especially in the bedroom. But where's the training for men to reciprocate? Where are the lessons on how to give women pleasure? She mentions that she was trained to please a man, and I can attest to the fact that growing up in Zimbabwe in the 80s and 90s, young girls were taught to stop pulling their labia when they come of age, and that's when they're round about the time their menstrual cycle starts. Apparently, this is for the man's pleasure when you get married. I haven't lived in Zim for over 20 years, so I cannot say whether or not this is still practiced, but I think it is. I also know that there are other African countries that encourage and even force young girls to do this. If this is something still practiced in your country, please tell us which country in the comments. I'd really be interested to know. I witnessed older cousins and aunties do this, and one time one of them came to me to have this discussion. I asked why creation didn't just complete the job if it was necessary. I told her I wouldn't be doing that. I felt complete, and I wasn't about to start doing anything to make an imaginary husband happy. What was he doing to make me happy? What was he being trained for? She didn't have an answer, but every so often the collective would quip that my husband would be so unsatisfied and find girlfriends to satisfy him. They said I would regret not pulling. I'm grateful I had and still have a strong character because that never fazed me. At 46, happily married, faithfully married for 22 years, sexual pleasure has never been an issue for both of us. My attitude on the topic of pulling since adolescence till now has been one of disdain. Ask me how those people's marriages are doing, and all I can categorically tell you is that putting in an effort to alter something that is natural on your body for an imaginary husband is absolutely not, and I repeat, not a guarantee that that man won't treat you like shit, cheat on you, and leave you. That's not slander. That's just what I witnessed. And it makes me ask, where's the training for men? Again, from my childhood, I witnessed bridal showers, kitchen tea parties, baby showers, always focusing on not celebrating the bride to be, the life she's about to embark on, or the new baby she's having, but they focused on teaching the woman the best sexual positions and movements to keep him satisfied. And don't get me started on the talk about positions to breastfeed a baby while simultaneously letting him penetrate you so he wouldn't feel like the baby was getting all the attention. Like, why is this a simultaneous activity? Why is this even a thing? Why does a grown man not focus on being a parent, a father to his little baby instead of being a man baby? Because attention rightfully needed by the baby is going to the baby. His attention should also be on the baby. Just thinking about it, just. Anyway, where was I? OP's husband. He's proof of how society ties a man's worth to his sexual prowess while failing to teach him the emotional maturity to handle feedback. Instead of self improvement, he's angry. Instead of growth, he's fragile. And yet, if you tell him that patriarchy hurts men, they don't want to hear it because they're too busy enjoying the privileges it gives them. Meanwhile, women like her are doing all the work: emotional labor, sexual labor, everything. And when their efforts fail, they resort to reclaiming pleasure through things like masturbation. And that's what makes men angry. Why? Because it highlights their inadequacy. And we all know how men feel about the constructed concept of emasculation. In 9 years, it hasn't occurred to him, to this man, to empathize with his wife's lack of pleasure and seek help, then maybe surprise her with a new improved sexual experience or suggestions on positions and play that they could both do together sexually to improve his stamina and delay his ejaculation. No, that's never occurred to him. She doesn't mention any effort from him, so when all her efforts fail, she resorts to silently masturbating, and he's the one who's angry. Women often carry the emotional and sexual labor in relationships, and this story is such a painful example of that. This makes it the perfect segue into discussing the importance of women reclaiming their right to pleasure. If you let patriarchy, misogyny, and religion tell it, sexual satisfaction for women is a luxury. Yet, if you let an unbound woman tell it, sexual satisfaction is a fundamental part of a healthy relationship. Women shouldn't have to feel ashamed or apologetic for wanting to climax. Her choice to masturbate is a way of reclaiming power in a situation where she feels powerless. It's her reclamation of power that makes him angry. He's upset about her finding a way to satisfy herself. But what's the alternative? Resentment, endurance, infidelity? Why is a woman's autonomy over her own body so threatening to some men? So, what's the solution? It's about reframing the conversation, not what he's doing wrong, but how they can work together to build intimacy and mutual pleasure. Therapy, books, and honest dialogue are a great place to start. But this isn't just her responsibility. Men need to grow, to unlearn, to step up. It starts with having an open conversation about what you'd like your sex life to feel like. This can lead to a question like, how can we practice pleasure so much that we get to the point where one of the things we're really good at is sex? Him listening and participating in the conversation is a good start to prove that he's willing to learn how to be better sexually. You'll then need to create an environment where you can openly discuss what pleasure and what's pleasurable and what isn't without judgment and without taking it being received as an attack. You can do this by creating a playful, erotic, and fun build up to exploring each other's bodies, introducing things like sensory play, fantasy, and toys. Create a mutual pleasure rule that says ladies always come first, and she should never fake it. To unbound women, this is not a new rule. If he's open to it, this is really a great opportunity to explore better quality pleasure for him too. You can reimagine sex and intimacy in ways that establish more connection, fulfillment, if he's willing. In all of this, let's not forget you will need to find ways for your healing as well. Healing from your husband's sexual neglect and pleasure deprivation. Here's a crazy thought. You mentioned how he comes after 2 minutes. Well, what if after a minute and a half, you make him stop? Let him know what it actually feels like to not come. Ultimately, for the husband, this is a wake up call to understand that his wife's pleasure isn't a personal attack on his masculinity, it's an invitation to deepen their connection, play, and actually make sex fun. Resources allowing, they could seek some form of counseling or therapy as long as it's not religious, because, in my opinion, religion has its own patriarchal pitfalls regarding sex and pleasure for women. Chances are in these spaces, women are encouraged to allow men to make them their ejaculate receptacles and not expect pleasure in an act designed for reproduction. Alternatively, you could easily research books on understanding female pleasure and bridging gaps like this in relationships. I won't give you suggested books or resources because doing independent research together is a great start to getting the work done. You're effectively looking for something that works for you, and in doing this together, you start building connection. Now, what's the bigger picture here? Why do women keep suffering in silence to protect someone else's feelings? And how do we normalize conversations about pleasure and reciprocity in relationships? So, over to you. Do you think her husband's anger is justified? Or is this more about unlearning harmful ideas about masculinity and intimacy? Let me know in the comments. And if you liked this, follow or subscribe depending on the platform you're watching or listening, and share with other women to remind them that life's too short to wait for someone else to give you pleasure or to show up. Build your own peace, create your own power, set those boundaries, reclaim your joy, and remind the world that softness and strength can and do exist in the same woman, and that's you. And you can always redefine womanhood and joy on your terms. Till next time.